Tonight's the NBA tip-off show powered by WagerTalk.com as we've got a loaded slate on this Friday now, November the 8th. Welcome in, couple of old faces, old reliables, if you will, joining us here as the one and only Double R, 1L, Steve Merrill in the house for us here, not to mention Rob Vino, and we have got a loaded slate again here today. We're going to talk about, of course, a couple of our favorite games here, a couple of primetime games for you guys to go over, not to mention a total we're going to focus on, and the Contrarian Gods are back in it and ready to roll. In fact, Contrarian Gods now 2-0 on this season here. They just hit the Brooklyn Nets as a contrarian play on Monday. They're going to see if they can get it done again here today as we welcome in Merrill and Vino. Not to mention, of course, your questions. Anybody that has a question, you can drop it in the chat room. We're going to get it going. Eric D's here, A Life in Vegas. All the known degenerates hanging out with us here, Merrill. Let's start, though, with our favorite, and we'll get you guys the scene here in a minute so you guys can see what's going on. But we will go ahead, Merrill, and start with our contrarian play of the day, which is going to be, oh, God, already? The Miami Heat. God damn it. The Miami Heat now getting 3 on the road against Denver. Oh, boy, I got to tell you. Well, listen, Miami's done really good early in games, Merrill, but it's the third quarter in which they just don't come out of the locker room. They don't show up. Denver, I believe, has Jamal Murray back tonight. Still no Aaron Gordon. They're still a little light in the depth department. Miami coming off of that one-bucket loss there to Phoenix. Great win against OKC for Denver. So what do you think here? Are the Contrarian Gods spot on by looking for a Miami bounce back here?
Well, I think early in the season, you can make an argument these are two play against semi-veteran teams, right, where you be careful. And you look at both of them, they're below 500 against the point spread, so not a surprise. We talked last week about the Nuggets when I was on a Friday ago, the bad start they were off to, and they actually were at Minnesota last Friday night when we were doing this show. And yes, they lost, but they did squeak in and cover by a single point as a 4-point dog, lost by 3. But they have since gone 3-0 straight up since that Minnesota loss, and they're actually 5-1 their last 6 since the 0-2, 1-3 straight up start overall this season. So it does appear like they're starting to trend in the right direction. Meanwhile, the Heat are 1-3 straight up their last 4, and they do look like kind of a weathering team. It's interesting, Joe, you talk about the third quarter problems because I honestly believe coming out of the locker room, whether it's college basketball, I've always feel like the first 5 minutes of the second half is very important, or the NBA, the start of that third quarter. And it's because of coaching adjustments in general. And look, Spoelstra is one of the best coaches ever, probably. So I'm not going to say he's not making the adjustments. So that's even more of a concern with Miami, that the fact they aren't playing well in the third quarter when they have a Hall of Fame caliber coach. I don't like to fade the Contrarians. And by the way, my NFL Fade the Public video will be up this weekend. Be sure to click subscribe and click that bell for an instant alert here. But it's hard for me to get on board with Miami right now. It looks like Denver is kind of focused and surging. And the Heat are the type of team the Nuggets probably don't overlook tonight at home, even a bit shorthanded.
Yeah, it's even a little bit shorthanded. I don't know, Vino. What are you thinking here? I mean, Denver has just been winning games, but boy, some of them by the skin of their teeth. And, you know, when Braun is I guess your starting guard now because you've got so many injuries and not a lot of depth, that bench. And I guess maybe that's the worrisome, right? Can the bench minutes of Denver match what the Miami Heat are going to roll out there, which you got to take into consideration if you're going to play him as a contrarian spot here tonight? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's certainly the weakness of Denver. It was last year. It remains that this year is the reserves. Unlike a couple of years ago when they were pretty well stacked 6 through 9, it's just not the case for Denver anymore. Meanwhile, on the Miami side, though, Joe, as you mentioned, they're going through some issues with rotations, and it shows up in the third quarter, right? Eric Spoelstra kind of experimenting. Do I want Jokic? Do I want Haywood Highsmith? Who do I want in this lineup? Who's performing better? So it seems like they're still somewhat experimenting here. Denver, you don't know what you're going to get out of Jamal Murray. He hasn't played for 3 games, so it's hard to say you just reinsert him into the lineup and We've seen plenty of times when rust has to be shaken off for these starting players. Certainly the loss of Aaron Gordon hurts them on the boards. It hurts them with their defense. And I think that was an issue the other night in that second half comeback win against Oklahoma City. They gave up 122. They just managed to outscore them. Beat them on the free throw line, really, Joe. 10 more free throw attempts for Denver in that game over OKC. But it was a kind of a emphasized or focused on win because OKC had beaten them pretty badly to start the season. So Denver wanted that game. Do they want this one? I'm not so sure, but Miami feels like they lost one more than Phoenix won one the other night. And second game of a road trip, trying to even it out at 1-1. I'd almost look to the Miami side here, but I don't know that it's enough points for me. Although Denver has shown weakness, and boy, it's funny when you have Nikola Jokic coming out, 3 or 4 games into the season and telling the world we don't have a lot of good shooters on this team. We only have 2. The rest of us are all streaky. Kind of lets you know where Denver sits right now. They're going to play hard. Miami's going to play hard. I would look to Miami if I was getting a few more points. We're not. I think the total might be a better way to look since Denver hasn't performed real well defensively. But as far as side is concerned, forced to make a decision. Let's start the year off right, Joe, and go against the contrarian gods. Why not? Let's see if they strike me down with lightning here tonight.
You know how that's going to work. You don't want to start off the year like that. It's not very, it's not great. But the contrarian gods certainly have their eyes on the Miami Heat tonight as a possible outright winner here. We'll see if they can make it 3-0 on the season. All right, we got a couple of other primetime games we're gonna run through here, and of course, big shout out to Big Daddy in the house, Eric D, A Life in Vegas. Those of you guys, Rudy Zura on TikTok. Those of you joining us on whether it be Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, as well as the multiple YouTube platforms. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Any questions on these games tonight? Don't be afraid. Go ahead, drop them in the chat rooms here, and we will go ahead and get to them. Well, we're going to focus on one game here, Merrill, on 2 teams that it's been less than a great start to the season. How about them Milwaukee Bucks taking on the New York Knicks here tonight? Milwaukee, second of a back-to-back, not a great spot for them. But things have not been going great for New York either. So, unfortunately, somebody's got to win this game. The question is there any value in backing Milwaukee as a dog in this spot?
Well, these are also 2 big-name teams, right? And Milwaukee, definitely an aging team. New York, somewhat as well, a little bit of a different roster. But 2 good teams for the most part from last year, and they're playing early in the season here. So I'm always interested to see how these teams start. And a lot of times, as we talked about with both Miami and Denver, they do start slow. And that's been the case here. We got a Milwaukee team that's 2-6 straight up, 3-5 against the spread. The Knicks, meanwhile, 3-4 straight up ATS. So they both have been money burners. They're both below 500. The Bucks are the team I'd be careful with, though, because don't forget they had lost 6 in a row until that win against Utah last night, 123-100. Now, you could say, well, was that the buy sign? I don't think so. They were a 10-point favorite in that game. Big step up in class and now traveling without rest in this situation against a Knicks team that is off back-to-back losses, but 4 straight road games. They now return home rested. Just looks like a better situational setup here for me with the Knicks. And we have seen this line start to go from 6.5 to 7 in some spots. So if you like New York, I'd probably play it sooner or later at the 6.5, as it's going to probably be 7 by tip-off.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a big number here. 7 is what we're seeing. The total too hovering around that 223 and a half mark. I mean, listen, we were all worried about Milwaukee's depth, but we were worried about the Knicks' depth too, going out and getting Cat, and they sacrificed. Some people think a little too much depth in order to go get him. But what do we think? Are we going to get big minutes and big effort from Dame and Giannis here? Because if we don't, oh boy, how are they going to keep it within this number?
An interesting line move here, Joe, and I don't think it meant that much to me. Knicks were 7.5 earlier today. And then the news came out that Giannis was probable. So it immediately went down to 6.5, which is where most places sit right now. And I don't know that Giannis in the lineup makes that much of a difference. That's kind of crazy to say. But where Milwaukee's concerned, Giannis has played most of the year, and they just haven't played good basketball, mainly on the defensive end. I mean, when you have to take Andre Jackson former UConn player who's noted for defense only and shove him in your starting lineup because your defense is so porous, it's not a good sign. Offensively, when they come down the floor, they're like playing 4-on-5. Damian Lillard doesn't guard. We knew that when they traded for him, when they got rid of Drew Holiday and replaced him with Damian Lillard, a little more offense, but certainly less defense. And so Milwaukee's had issues all season long on the defensive end. I think in the Knicks case, and Steve touched on it a little bit, they're off back-to-back losses on the road where they were favorites. You know, the Houston game, they didn't shoot well. Houston has become a little bit better of a defensive team this year. They ranked pretty high in the defensive statistics. But the Atlanta game was just, it's like a Trae Young revenge tour every time they play the Knicks. And even if you saw the post-game afterwards, Trae Young, instead of talking to the reporter or answering his question, was staring at the scattered Knicks fans leaving the arena and pointing them out to the reporter that the Knicks fans were disappointed. So personal game for Trae Young there. I think I can excuse both of those. Knicks are on rest, now back home. After that 4-game road swing Friday night in MSG, I think it'll be energized. And the Knicks, to me, are just the better team at this point in time. I trust Thibodeau way more than I trust Doc Rivers. So for me, I think the push downward to 6.5, just because Giannis is in, didn't make a lot of difference. I think I like the Knicks here minus the points.
Ooh, liking the Knicks here, minus the points, expecting a bit of a blowout here. I don't know that anybody would be shocked, except for Big Daddy, who wants to throw up all over this game in the chat room, apparently. Says absolutely not here. But we do say Milwaukee just isn't starting slow. They're actually bad, says Lord King Guru in the YouTube Shorts chat room. And you're not lying with that spot here. It's going to become a two-man team for 82 games of the regular season. We'll see how that works for them in that one. We do have also another pretty interesting game here tonight, one in the center of the country, as the Phoenix Suns finally healthy, taking on the new-look Dallas Mavericks in what should be a fun one to watch here. Phoenix just took down Miami, took all that they had in that one to be able to get it done. But now Dallas, little Klay Thompson Dallas here in a nice fit and a nice role. Boy, this feels like Dallas at home should be the right spot. But Merrill, what have you thought of Phoenix so far? I think it's the healthiest they've looked, and I think they're playing some great basketball. Is it enough to go on the road and beat Dallas here?
Yeah, I want to know if the new city, the new uniform is going to help Klay Thompson. Injured knees and aging legs play a little bit faster. We'll see. All seriousness, like early in the season, though, I do think a player that might play a little bit better because he does kind of get a rejuvenated spark to his career. But we'll see how he holds up, obviously, in March and April in the postseason when it matters. I thought he was kind of over the hill the last couple of years with the Warriors when he was on the court. As far as the Suns, off to a great start this season. I mean, there's no way to candy coat it here. This is a team that so far is 7-1 straight up. But what's crazy, Joe, is they're just 2-6 against the spread. That's the biggest dichotomy in the NBA between real record and point spread. So, yeah, they're winning. But when you're 7-1 straight up and 2-6 ATS, that tells you all you need to know, right? You're winning but not covering big numbers, inflated numbers. So we'll see what happens in this one. They're an underdog here, so that's less of a concern. And the one thing we've seen is some sharp money on the over in this game. Open 229, and it's now 232 across the board. And some of the sharper books are 232.5, 233. So I would lean over here and bless the sharp money looking for a high-scoring game.
Seeing some love in the chat room towards an under in this one here, Rob Vino. If anybody will play an over, it will be you, my friend. 230.5 is what we're seeing. Do you think defensive struggle? You think we're going to get some points? It would be hard to sweat out an under here, no?
Well, I tell you, I did a WagerTalk single game video on this one earlier this morning, John. Believe it or not, I sucked it up and under came out of my mouth in that video. And it's contrarian to the move. But if we look at a few things here, each of these defenses in the NBA's top 5 right now as we speak. Phoenix is a number 3 field goal percentage allowed defense in the league. Dallas is number 4. Phoenix, it's a real small sample size. They've only played 3 road games. Their defense has fallen off a cliff on the road. Goes up to like 49% allowed. But again, It's only 3 games. Overall, they've been a very good defensive team. Dallas at home, number 3 in the league at only 42.6% allowed. It's a Dallas revenge game. Phoenix beat them 114-102. Add that up, it's only 216 in that particular contest. Dallas had some players that they won't have tonight. Derek Lively played in that game. Maxi Kleber played in that game. 2 bench reserves. And I guess it's important because it's like a cluster injury, right? There are 2 bigs off the bench that Dallas will be without tonight. And for the Phoenix side, they played the first game without Bradley Beal and without Grayson Allen. Bradley Beal may come back tonight. Who knows? If he does, I don't know what injecting him into the lineup does or doesn't do. They're going to be without starting forward Ryan Dunn, who's become accustomed to, the starting lineup. So sometimes when you're transitioning pieces in and out, it makes a difference. I think when you look at it real close, though, Dallas, it's the fifth of a 5-game homestand. They're 2-2 right now on the homestand. So you want to close out with a win. So sidewise, you give it a little advantage to Dallas. But where the total is concerned, Joe, Phoenix is 5-3 under this 232.5 number on the season. Dallas is 6-2 under this number, 232.5 on the season. 5-1 under this total at home. The only team that's pushed Dallas over 232.5 at home this season is Indiana. And we all know that Indiana is going to play 94 feet for 48 minutes. Phoenix just doesn't play that way. They're ranked 20th right now in tempo. And Mike Budenholzer made a point when he took over this team to say that he was going to slow it down a little bit to help them defensively and to help them with their turnover problems. So sometimes when you get better defensively, it's only because you slow the game down. That looks like the case with Phoenix. I see kind of a slower pace here. I think 232.5 was too high, so I kind of like the under. If I had to play the side, I would look towards the revenge-minded Mavs at home and trying to, finish with a winning homestand.
Yeah, Phoenix, 1-2 against the number on the road this year. I think they covered against the Clippers, and it'll be, but they lost to the Lakers. So it'll be interesting to see what we get here from both of these teams with a little new look going across the board. I know Lord King Guru says he likes the over, but he likes the over on Nurkic rebounds and the over for the game. Some people believe that this might be the Devin Booker game. No Kevin Durant, but maybe more about Devin Booker in this one, taking advantage of some of the matchups in that one. Also, a good game here tonight, one in which we'll focus on the total, but do want to remind you guys, if you're joining us here on the NBA Tip-Off Show for the first time, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, become part of the WagerTalk TV family. We certainly appreciate that. And of course, the thumbs up will go a long way here, as we've got more free content than just about anybody here on YouTube. And we also have a couple of questions that are coming in on a few of the games coming up later, including the Pistons and the Hawks. We'll get to those guys coming up. But we do want to focus a total on, Houston at OKC. This one opened up a little bit low, 218, now seeing 222.5, maybe 223 here, Merrill. And what are we thinking here? OKC coming off a loss. I mean, they weren't going to win every game, right, Merrill? So we kind of figured that. Houston, though, doing great, not only offensively, but also defensively. I think they're top 10 in both. So something has got to give here. Is this going to be a defensive slugfest, or the market seems to think 218 was too low to begin with? Do you agree with them in this one?
Well, it's 2 ways to look at this. If you think Houston is going to start shooting better than they did early in the season, then there's some intrinsic value with the over. And we have seen 2 of their last 3 games go over. But just to put in perspective, they started the season 3-3 straight up, despite shooting 41% or worse in 5 of their first 6 games. Just horrendous offensive numbers. But they've since shot 49 and 56% the last 2 games against the Knicks and Spurs. So once again, it's your call. Do you think that the 6-game sample is more valid? Normally, I would say yes, but then again, the last 2 games, current form, right? And one of the things I've always said about beating the NBA is you look for these little shifts on 4 to 5 games, especially when a team starts playing better offensively or defensively, and that can lead to some value with the totals. This is an Oklahoma City team that's been pretty good offensively all year. So I would agree with the move. Now, the problem, of course, is that OKC is a very good defensive team. And we'll find out about Houston. This is a game I'm staying away from tonight, but it is one of those, let's sit back and see what happens. Because if the Rockets can go out there and shoot well and score points against a good OKC defense, then that's the green light for the next several games. They are at Detroit, by the way, on Sunday. They get the Wizards, not my Washington Bullets, on Monday, and also at the Clippers twice next week. So sometimes not playing a game can set up good plays in the future. What I want to see in this game tonight is if this Houston offense is really for real. If they can score tonight, I will say that's the green light. And by the way, as far as the move in this game, it depends on which book you look at. Bet Online, our friend Dave Mason and company, who does a great job with the political odds, they put everything up way before everybody else. And look, I get it. It's not a true opener because the limits are very low and not many people have access to it. But yesterday, this opened 222. Everybody else opened at 219, 218 and a half, and now it's once again 221 and a half, 222. So yes, it has pretty much moved 3 points in the market. But I'll give our friends Dave Mason and company some credit. They actually had this as the initial opener before everybody else hammered it lower.
Interesting. Vino, it's kind of been a one-sided matchup over the last 6 meetings. I think the Thunder have won 4 of the last 6. And I believe all of those have been by double digits. So when they take on the Rockets, they end up stepping all over them there. The question is there any correlation here between the Rockets and an under and the OKC win and covering an over, or how do you approach it?
There could be, Joe. And I'll tell you, both of these teams, as you guys mentioned, very good defensive teams where field goal percentage allowed is concerned. OKC's 1 in the league. I think Houston's top 5, top 6. They're right there. But they're going about it totally different ways. Ime Udoka, we know him from Boston as being a defensive-minded coach. What went on last year is totally different from what's going on this year. When you look at the pace numbers of these two teams, Oklahoma City's playing great defense. Number 1, field goal percentage allowed, while playing extremely fast. They're the 3rd fastest team in the league. Houston decided we're going to slow it down this year. They're 25th in tempo, and thus you get less possessions. There's multiple ways about becoming a better defensive team, and I just wonder if Houston's defensive ranking isn't a product of playing slower basketball. Now, keep that in mind. You're coming to OKC off a loss, and they're going to run. And Houston has gotten into this little or acclimated to playing slow basketball. And it could be a lot of turnovers forced here. Houston could get pretty rattled if this game gets too fast because they're just not used to playing fast now. And again, Udoka took them from a team last year. You remember, we said it a zillion times on this show, where he was begging Jalen Green on defensive rebounds, get out, go, 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 go. They wanted to use their legs and go. Total shift in philosophy. I'd rather have the team that's capable of playing real good defense at home in a fast-paced game than a team that needs it to be slow and is on the road. Oklahoma City off a loss might force it down Houston's throat. I think OKC is probably the right side. As for total, you said, does it correlate? And it probably does. If Oklahoma City is able to run, it's going to be a high-scoring game. They're going to get theirs. Maybe you focus in on team total for OKC. Houston would probably be in trouble there. So I think pace matters here, and Oklahoma City at home, I'd give them the edge in forcing it.
National Now Goker. I probably pretty much just butchered that handle there, but appreciate you stopping by. Under points for me in OKC, our good friend RC, UCappers Sports there, Ronald Cabang hanging out in the chat room, points out that the Thunder team total under could be a look. Also mentioned that the Rockets opponents are 7-1 to their team total under this season here. So maybe a little more defense expected here tonight. But listen, Oklahoma City, I think in every one of their games, Merrill, I think they got 7 wins on a season. Every one of them, I believe, has been by double digits. So they're not just winning. They're winning by margin and rather easily in some of these contests here. This is probably a little bit different test, even more so than what we just got with Denver, no?
Yeah, I mean, you could also look to play some adjusted spreads, right? And then, of course, you have the outright money line if you think there's going to be the upset. But the other thing I'll point out is I don't recommend parlays much, but as you and Rob are kind of talking about, there probably is some correlation with the side and total in this game as well. And for new bettors out there, the only time a parlay works is if it's a two-teamer. And don't let Prez tell you that the odds are better with three-teamers and two-teamers. I heard him say that again last week. I didn't even get into it with him. The math does not check on that. And I've had this discussion before, and and I know he's not watching the show here, so we'll call him out. But look, a two-teamer is the only way it's still not great odds for you. But if you think a side and total are correlated, and by the way, what's the only two-team parlay I ever recommend is NFL teasers, because you're getting key numbers and it's making the odds work. So this is one of those games that did cross my mind when you and Rob were talking about how, especially Rob talking about the different paces of plays, Houston slow, OKC fast. You would think that probably correlates maybe to the side as well.
Yeah, exactly. Big Daddy agreeing with you there. We've got expat Mark Soul Pal. Good Lord, you only need 9 words in that handle. That should be good. We'll get to that Cavs game here in a minute. But we do have a couple of best bets we're going to ask these guys for coming up, plus your questions on the games here tonight. Plenty of them to go over for sure. But before we get there, Merrill, tell the folks what you got locked, loaded, ready to go. Week 11 college football, week 10 NFL, NBA. I don't know. Have you dabbled in college basketball yet? What do you got locked and loaded for everyone at your page at WagerTalk?
Yes, and yes. Yes to all those questions. It's a huge weekend and maybe not a bad time to pick up an all sports package because of it. By the way, NBA, we're talking NBA here, 5-2, 71% start to the NBA season. Not a surprise, right? Because I'm number one all time at WagerTalk in the NBA, included up over 200 units the last 3 years alone in pro basketball. But yes, college basketball has started as well. College and pro football still in full swing. Baseball just finished almost 100 units won this year in the baseball season alone. It's been just a great 2024, and there's still 2 more months to go. And this weekend, I do have a 3-day all-sports sampler for just $49. Special promo code Steve3. It's on my page right now. If you want to try out 3 days and nights, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, not a bad time to do it, as you're going to get all the big sports going at once. Once again, a 3-day special, Steve3, is available right now at WagerTalk.com.
All right, good stuff there, Merrill. How about you, Vino? Locked, loaded, ready to roll. A little something for everybody right now. College hoops, NBA, NFL, college football, darts. Where is Andy when you need him? Talk to me here, Vino. What are you looking at tonight?
Yeah, I tell you, Joe, the Tuesday through Thursday college football cards didn't excite me much. But tonight, 3 big plays going off in college football and only 4 games on the board. So it seemed like they stacked all the ones that I liked on one night. So college football is up and loaded. NBA as well. NBA's been pretty good the last couple of nights. We're on a short-term hot streak here with NBA stuff. So look to capitalize on that. As far as weekend football goes, there will be a 5% blue chip college football play. Had 4 this season and all 4-0 in football blue chips. So been rolling as far as those are concerned. So yeah, it's a big weekend. It starts tonight with the college football card and the NBA card. As far as college basketball is concerned, more of a viewer than actual participant so far, trying to gauge what these new head coaches are trying to do with their teams and what this transfer portal has done to some of these teams. Took a shot with BYU the other night. They look pretty good. But other than that, I've been pretty quiet where college basketball is concerned.
All right, good stuff there, guys. We got plenty going on over at WagerTalk.com. Let's talk a couple of best bets here tonight. Don't forget, give us that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Become part of that WagerTalk TV family. Shout out to Snow14 hanging out on TikTok with us, as well as the crazies and day drinkers on Instagram. Glad to see you guys have picked up where you left off. All right, Merrill, it is best bet time here, my man. Plenty of opportunities on the board. And of course, you're going to head out west to LA. Why not? Talk to us here. Lakers taking on 3 of the 76ers, because I think that's all that's left and healthy on this team. What are you doing with this game tonight, Merrill?
I love LA, and I'm going to fade Rob Vino's 76ers here just because he's on the show. Why not? Let's do it all in one bunch here. And you're right. Yeah, it is a shorthanded Philadelphia squad. Embiid has not played all season. Maxey out. And, yes, the Lakers are banged up, but Anthony Davis is probable. LeBron's not even on the report. So that's actually healthy for the Lakers if you think about it. And as you mentioned, this is two teams that are struggling. But the fact the Lakers have gone 1-4 straight up their last 5, all of those games, by the way, on the road. So if you look at it this year, the home team, what is it? 1-4 on the road, 3-0 at home. That's 7-1. If you just play the Lakers home teams, you've gone 7-1 straight up and pretty good against the spread as well. And I do think that applies tonight because JJ Redick's starting to feel the pressure. It was all grand and dander and grand or whatever the term is after the 3-0 start. But now that they went 1-4 on the road, he needs a win tonight. And this is the perfect opponent to get against the hapless 76ers that are 1-6 straight up on the season and banged up and shorthanded. Lay it with the Lakers -7 tonight. I look for a double-digit win. And don't forget the 3-day all-sports sampler for just $49 with promo code Steve3. Also, check out my videos, Fade the Public NFL, College Football Top 25. Also have a free play for the late-night Friday college football game right now here on WagerTalk TV. So smash that like button and also smash the bell and subscribe so you never miss the free plays here on WagerTalk TV and WagerTalk.com.
All right, good stuff there, Merrill. Loving the fact that you are fading the 76ers with Rob Vino sitting right here. So, Vino, the ball is in your court here, my man. I can't think of two teams I trust less than those two right now. But how about a best bet here tonight across the board? Where are you looking? Who'd you circle for us?
Yeah, I love the way I get assigned these Philadelphia teams when I'm not even from this place. And I find
your 76ers.
Let's talk to
Fade
Dan
not my
about
Washington
the
Wizards. I dare
76ers.
you, Rob. Fade them right now.
Yeah,
Fade
that's
my
right.
Bullets.
Let's go Wizards, Vino. Come on, let's go.
Somebody who actually likes the Sixers. I get more enjoyment out of the Philadelphia fan base when they're losing. Let's go here, guys. I think it's the first game on the board, but I like the Pistons tonight as the best bet. Atlanta, I mentioned earlier, Trae Young takes great pleasure in playing the New York Knicks and being the villain. And extreme focus placed on that game the other night and emphasis, and they came through. They beat the Knicks in the last game of the Knicks road trip, and he enjoyed every minute of it. But now on the road, Atlanta's been untrustworthy on the road for a bunch of years now. And for Detroit, they were on the verge of a 3-game win streak the other night before a tip-in at the buzzer cost them the 3-game win streak. A little upset about that as a team they were. And in that game, they lost Jalen Duren, their center. However, head coach J.B. Bickerstaff pointed out how good Paul Reed played as a reserve center off the bench in that game. Isaiah Stewart obviously has starting experience. He steps in. He'll be the starter here, no problem. But they do have backup now in the form of Paul Reed, who is an ex-Philadelphia 76er. I like the way the Detroit team has played all season long. They play hard for 48 minutes. Atlanta's got the kind of defense that you don't want to put any faith in on the road. And like I said, I think Trae Young gave us his best the other night. Don't know that we'll get that same effort here. So for me, it's going to be the Pistons. The price is right. They're only laying 1 point here. Kind of a switch in favorites. I think Atlanta opened the favorite. Detroit now the favorite, but still asking them to win by a bucket in a game where they're looking for atonement for the loss the other night and maybe starting a win streak. I think Detroit's the right side.
Liking Detroit in this. Why not a rebound prop for Isaiah Stewart too? If Duren is not going there, he should be able to get. He should be able to get a few boards in that one for sure. Oh my word! I cannot believe she's back. Oh boy. Kelsey has made the return to the chat room, people. Put your drinks away. You know the Chardonnay's out. She's here. Right on time, too, Kelsey. Way to go. Only 5 minutes left in the show. Way to join us there. All right, so we have a couple of questions coming in across the chat room there. And let's see what we've got. Let's start with Brandon Carson first, who says has a question for the NBA King, and he actually gave a king emoji for you, Merrill. He said, Steve Merrill wants to know if you like the over or under in the Golden State Cavs game here tonight. Of course, I believe this is only the 21st time it's happened in NBA history where an undefeated team on the season is taking on at home is taking on an undefeated team on the road, which is what Golden State has been thus far. It doesn't happen very often. They're both playing pretty well, Merrill, but do you think this has got over or underwritten all over?
Well, I actually will bring that into the analysis because if you look at the sharp money like the over in this game, it opened, what was it, 29.5, I believe, and it's gone up to 31 now, 231. I even see a 231.5. So I do respect that. Early in the season, if I'm fading one of these sharp moves, I'm making sure I'm not missing something. So I don't have a play on this game tonight. So I would let you know that the sharp money that I respect is on the over here. But what kept me off this total is what you just mentioned, Joe, that these are two really good teams. They're combined 16-1 straight up.
Yep.
And as you know from all my NBA playoff videos I did last spring, that when we have Class A teams playing each other in the postseason, especially in like elimination games, we get more unders. And I do think this is a spotlight kind of playoff atmosphere game tonight. So Cleveland's 4-1 over their last 5. Warriors are 4-1 over their last 5. The money came in on the over. I'd be cautious, though, because I do think this is a Class A game that might bring some more defensive intensity than we normally expect.
Yeah, Vino, you over under in this one here tonight? Are you above that, expecting maybe a little bit? I mean, it's still a couple of weeks into the season. They're not going to lay it all out on the line, but it does feel like maybe a little more defense here tonight, no?
Yeah, it talked about it a little earlier with our colleague Ski Profit on his show, Joe. I thought 231 looked a little high. Golden State went to Boston, the best offensive team by far in the NBA, and game landed 230. Golden State and Cleveland both sit inside the top 6 as far as defense is concerned. Couple of, let's get into a couple of quotes here, though, in this game that interested me as far as side is concerned, because you can make good arguments both ways. I'm sure Golden State wants to be the team, and they've had a day of rest. Yep. They went to Boston, they got that win, they rest, and now they want to take down a 9-0 team. They'd love to be the team to do that. But this comes from Cleveland real quick here. Donovan Mitchell, who says, we're playing good basketball. We've done it in so many different ways. We've had blowouts, close games, come from behind wins. It's just the habits that really get me excited about what we're doing. My biggest thing is just being consistent. Let's continually be this team. Better than Donovan Mitchell, the new head coach, Kenny Atkinson, who says, what I think about this team is the camaraderie that they have and the chemistry that we have going and how connected they are. I've been fortunate to land with a really good group, a group that's been really successful in the past. Generally, in the NBA, we love those teams that like each other. And it seems like the Cavaliers like each other, like being on the floor together, playing with a certain cohesiveness. That's hard to bet against. So there's a lot of conflicting arguments here. But I do agree with Steve in that 231 just appeared to be too high. I know it's a move made by significant money, but I still think that maybe this one lands under tonight.
Still leaning towards the under. All right there. Kelsey, well into her second bottle of Chardonnay. Always a pleasure, Kels. Glad to see you're back in form. And we're only 3 weeks into the season. We also have a couple other questions coming in. Let's, Merrill, I'll start with you here. And I believe it was Lord King Guru wants to know Pistons and Hawks here tonight. And wants to know if you're thinking about any sort of team total in this spot here as well. Because it feels like Atlanta is no way I would look at a under in any way, shape, or form in this game. Would you?
Correct. And I'll go back to what Rob was saying. I love, by the way, Rob's angle with the post-New York letdown, especially for a guy like Trae Young.
Yes.
I think when teams come out flat, my theory has always been it affects the defense more than the offense. These guys can score in their sleep, but you have to have focus and intensity. And that's what I was talking about the Golden State Cleveland game. If it is a Class A, playoff intensity game, there'd be more focus. Maybe you're a little bit concerned with Trae Young props over. If Rob is right and there's a letdown here, he is the offensive juggernaut. So if you like the over in this game, the Piston team total over might be a safer play in case Young does come out flat. It takes that out of the equation. But if the defense is still bad for the Hawks as expected, you get your team total. So, yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Maybe a Piston team total over, and I'm checking it right now. It's 114 and a half, as opposed to the full game over 227 and a half would make some sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think we got a couple of questions, Vino, coming in on what to do with the Pacers and the Hornets. This is a game that it looks like it got steamed up The total did I think we're up to what, 235, 235 and a half, somewhere in that ballpark. Both of these teams are going to be flying up and down the court. They just got that win against Detroit. Is there any way we'd sweat an under here, Rob? No way, right?
You don't want to, Joe. And I think if you were going to isolate here, the person before in the chat was talking about team totals. I think you'd probably want to isolate Indiana's team total here. It was about
Indiana,
4 or 5 games ago where, you get Tyrese Halliburton and company coming out and stating the obvious. We need to get back to running the way we did last year. I myself wound up banging my head into a brick wall the first few games thinking they would do that. But unfortunately for me, they came out a little cold. Now they're back in the groove, scoring points each and every night. You saw the 134 they put on Dallas the other night. They just want to push. A couple of key injuries here. I think that TJ McConnell is still on the injury report. We'll see what happens with him. I think Nembhard is going to play. But they've got so many assets as far as offense is concerned. And for what it's worth with Charlotte, new head coach, Boston assistant, comes down there and talks about shooting threes and playing defense, much like is the Boston philosophy.
Yep.
That playing defense stuck for like one game. And since then, Charlotte's given up 125, 133, 124, 114, 114, 113. So they're not a good defensive team. Indiana can take advantage of a team that's not good defensively and a team that wants to push pace. So I think if you were going to isolate it, I'd look at Indiana to do most of the heavy lifting there.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, they played the Celtics twice, the Timberwolves on the road, the Rockets on the road, and the Heat at home. So they've played some defensive teams as well. So, will they continue to be able to get up and down? We're about to find out here because it is, I think, one of the highest totals on the board here tonight. Big Daddy likes the over 117 and a half in the first half. Thinks that might be a better look here. And then, of course, you also have, Merrill, questions about the Celtics and whether or not, with still no Jaylen Brown, no Porzingis still, but are we really laying 13 against Brooklyn, who just came off a nice game and a nice win? I mean, at some point, we can't just keep laying double digits with the Celtics, or can we?
Yeah, I mean, once again, if I had a crystal ball, I could see the 3-point shooting for the Celtics. I'd either play the money line at plus 13.5, or you just have them win by 20. It's just so difficult to handicap this team. But in general, like you kind of referenced, we're not looking to get in front of Boston, even when they're shorthanded. They're a juggernaut team off to a 7-2 start. I don't think this is necessarily the most focused spot tonight. I'm not using this game personally, but I would probably lean towards the big dog. But once again, it's so difficult to predict how the Celtics are going to shoot from three. That's really what makes the difference. It's like a college basketball game.
And that's really what makes the difference in that one here, but certainly not running to lay 13 at this point, even though they're coming off of that rare loss there. And finally there, Vino, questions regarding Merrill's Washington Wizards taking on the Memphis Grizzlies here. This is another one where it's got nothing but Memphis money and over money. Are you in agreement with both there? How many people are hurt on Memphis, by the way? Like, who's available and left here that will get us up and over this or can clear 7.5, you know?
Yeah, and that's the problem with it, right? No John Morant, no Desmond Bain, no G.G. Jackson. Again, talked about this earlier with skiing, where it's just like, you'd love to be on over here. But with the amount of absent point scorers in this game, how can you be? And it's kind of head-scratching as to why people would push this up 4 points when so many huge scorers are out of this game on both sides. Kyle Kuzma out on the other side, Sadiq Bey, Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, some of them the usual suspects in the Washington lineup, but still, you've taken a boatload of points out of the rotations here, and now you're asking them to get to 232. Pace will be there, obviously, and I think either you or Steve said it earlier, they're still NBA players, but it's pretty risky asking them to go ahead and get to 232 when you have so many guys that generally do the scoring for these teams out of the game.
Yeah, Merrill, what have you seen from your Washington team here? Why are they getting no love? I mean, they're young, but they're playing with pace. I mean, maybe the over, but I don't think they're terrible here, Washington. Do you?
Well, first of all, they don't call them the Bullets anymore, so that's why they get no love. And let's bring back all these old nicknames here. But I don't know. I mean, this is a team that's obviously not a very public team because they've gone through some terrible runs. Right. And all jokes aside, like I grew up in the 80s when they were the Bullets. They were terrible then. They got Chris Webber for that little span. I remember the excitement in D.C. in the 90s when Webber came over from Golden State or whatever. But it's been a terrible franchise, right up there with not my Washington Commanders, who are now 7-2. We'll see how that turns out. But I think for that reason, these teams sometimes don't get a lot of love with the betting markets. You look at them overall this year, they're 2-4 straight up and against the spread. Nothing to love there. But teams like this usually don't miss the opportunity to beat up on a struggling team. And although Memphis has a 5-4 record, 7, by the way, is the answer. 7 guys on the injury report. 6 of the 7 are officially out tonight. So that is half a team, basically, that is out, like you said, Joe. So I think it's a spot where Washington probably comes focused and they smell blood in the water.
Yeah, it could very well be. It looks like that might be a team worth keeping an eye at. Luke Green, pleasure to see you, man, joining us from the UK. B. Fredo over on Instagram doing plenty of drinking. Can't even spell that name correctly. And, of course, those on TikTok, we appreciate you guys stopping by. As always, if you haven't hit the subscribe button or the like button yet, I don't know what else we have to do here. We'd certainly appreciate it if you did that here, guys. Don't forget the NBA tip-off show during the week on the big cards, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some combination of there is when we'll come to you live. Other than that, you can check out all the single game videos and previews and best bets that we've got for you here on the YouTube channel here at WagerTalk. Good to see old friends. Kelsey back in the house, already cracking open a Friday third bottle of Chardonnay. It's a pleasure. Bonkers in the house, also Big Daddy. And we appreciate you guys, as always, swinging by. Good luck tonight on the games, guys. Make plans to come back and join us again on Monday. Another big card in the NBA. Until then, best of luck, guys. We'll talk to you again soon.